Scotland has thousands of castles. Some are world famous, others you could walk past without noticing. But each one tells part of the same story of power, defence, politics and daily life. This video isn't about the biggest or most visited, it's about the ones that stood out to me while filming across the country. From coastal towers to hilltop fortresses, here are 12 Scottish castles, ranked not from worst to best because none are bad, but from striking to unforgettable. 12. Doune Castle. Doune Castle is one of the most recognisable and widely filmed castles in Scotland. Built in the late 14th century by Robert Stewart, Duke of Albany, it was designed as both a royal retreat and a show of power. Its layout is unusual, with a massive gatehouse, great hall and high tower all integrated into a compact, self-contained structure. Though never the site of major battles, it served as a royal residence and military garrison for centuries. The castle fell into disuse after the 17th century, but remained largely intact, which is why it's become such a popular filming location. In 1974, it stood in for multiple locations in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Later, it appeared as Winterfell in the pilot episode of Game of Thrones, and was featured more prominently as Castle Leoch in Outlander. Managed today by Historic Environment Scotland, Doune Castle is one of the best preserved medieval strongholds in the country. Visitors can explore its great hall, kitchens, tower rooms, and the enclosed courtyard, much of it unchanged for centuries. Audio tours even include narration from Monty Python's Terry Jones. With its rich blend of real history and cultural fame, Doune Castle easily earns its spot among Scotland's top castles, not just for what it was, but for how it continues to capture imaginations around the world. Lennox Castle isn't known for royal battles or sieges, but for something more modern and far more disturbing. Built between 1837 and 1841 for John Lennox Kincaid, this grand baronial mansion was once surrounded by manicured gardens and woodland, reflecting the wealth and status of its original owner. But its story took a dark turn in the 20th century. In 1936, the castle and its estate were converted into a psychiatric hospital. Over the next several decades, Lennox Castle Hospital became one of the largest mental health institutions in Scotland. At its peak, it housed more than 1,200 patients, including adults and children with learning disabilities. The conditions, particularly in later years, were overcrowded, underfunded, and increasingly criticised. By the 1980s and 90s, inspections reported serious concerns about patient care and neglect. The hospital finally closed its doors in 2002. Today, all that remains is the decaying shell of the original mansion. The surrounding grounds have been redeveloped, but the castle itself has been left to rot, fenced off and structurally unsafe. It stands as a haunting reminder of how grandeur and shame can share the same walls. While it may not feature in tourist brochures, Lennox Castle earns its place here for its stark contrast, a majestic exterior hiding a complex, often troubling past. 10th, Dundonald Castle. Once the seat of royalty, Dundonald Castle was built in 1371 by Robert II, the first Stuart King of Scotland. But this hilltop has seen power for far longer. Archaeological digs show 3 different castles stood here, one as early as the 1100s. The stone remains we see today housed royalty in the late 14th century, and its location wasn't just scenic, it was strategic. From this vantage point, the Stuarts could oversee much of Ayrshire. Inside, a grand hall once hosted feasts, political meetings and royal ceremony. Excavations and radar scans have revealed structures beneath the surface, likely older walls and possible towers. The castle's role declined by the 1500s, but its footprint remains at the heart of the community. In its prime, Dundonald would have dominated the skyline, a formidable presence watching over the land. Today, it tells a quieter story, but no less powerful. Ninth, Seagate Castle. Tucked into the heart of Irvine, Seagate Castle feels more like part of the town than a separate relic. Its current ruin dates from the 1500s, but the site goes back centuries earlier. Built by the Montgomery family, it was once a townhouse-style residence for a powerful clan, not a lonely hilltop fortress. Mary, Queen of Scots, is said to have stayed here in 1563, accompanied by her famous four Maries. At that time, Irvine was a bustling seaport, and Seagate sat right in the middle of the action. It wasn't built for grand battles, it was built for presence and power in a thriving burgh. The thick walls and vaulted rooms still hint at its importance. Though it sits roofless now, fenced in beside houses and traffic, it's a rare survivor of a time when nobles lived in the heart of Scottish towns. 8. Portencross Castle. Portencross Castle sits just above the shoreline of the Firth of Clyde, a short walk from the village of West Kilbride. What's left today is a squat, square tower house, but the site has seen over 800 years of continuous use, beginning with a timber hall built here in the 11th or 12th century. In the 1300s, the Boyd family were granted lands at Portencross, including a nearby castle, Aldhill, which may have been damaged or destroyed. The Boyds then built a new stone castle on this spot. It grew in phases. What started as a simple hall house was expanded over time, including the three-storey tower that stands today. This wasn't some distant ruin on a windswept coast. It was a working residence. Documents show it was still in use well into the 17th century, and a roof remained until 1739, when a storm tore it off. Since then, it's slowly decayed. There's local tradition, but no written evidence, that Robert the Bruce signed charters here. It's more likely that later kings or royal officials used the castle during visits to the west coast. Archaeological work has uncovered pottery, ironwork, and even evidence of a stone oven. The castle sits beside what would have been a useful landing point for boats, and it likely served as a key part of coastal movement and communication. In the 1900s, it became a bothy for fishermen. Today, it's preserved and opened seasonally by volunteers, a quiet survivor of centuries of Scottish coastal life. 7th, Eglinton Castle. Eglinton Castle may be a romantic ruin today, but in the 19th century it was one of the grandest neo-Gothic mansions in Scotland. Built between 1797 and 1802 for the 12th Earl of Eglinton, it was designed to impress, complete with battlements, towers and vast formal gardens. But this wasn't the first stronghold on the site. Earlier Eglinton castles go back to the 1500s, used by the Montgomery family for generations. The current ruin overlays those layers of history. Its moment of fame came in 1839 during the Eglinton tournament, an elaborate medieval-style jousting event attended by thousands. At its height, the castle had over 100 rooms and served as a symbol of aristocratic power. But fortune faded. By the early 20th century, the family had moved out, and in 1925, the roof was removed to avoid taxes. The rest slowly crumbled. Today, the ruins sit in the heart of Eglinton Country Park, visited by walkers and families. It's a mix of grandeur and decay, with hints of earlier power hidden behind the romantic stonework. The castle's long history, both medieval and Victorian, is still written in its remaining walls. 6. Dalquharran Castle. Dalquharran Castle tells a story in two parts, an old fortified tower and a later grander mansion. The original tower house dates to the 1500s, built by the Kennedy family as a typical L-plan defensive structure overlooking the River Girvan. You can still see its thick walls and narrow openings designed for defence. In the 1790s, a new Dalquharran Castle was built uphill, a Georgian-style mansion designed by Robert Adam, the same architect behind Culzean. The new castle was never fully completed, though the structure remains. Its layout was meant to reflect Enlightenment ideals, symmetry, order and elegance, but life there was short-lived. By the early 1900s it was abandoned, and like many great houses, its roof was removed to avoid tax. Today, both castles sit in slow decay, their stonework overtaken by trees and time. From medieval tower to grand experiment in modern living, Dalquharran offers a rare look at the changing face of Scottish aristocracy over 3 centuries. 5th Lochrenza Castle. Positioned on a spit of land reaching into the sea, Lochrenza Castle on the Isle of Arran is instantly recognisable. Its first stone structure dates to the 1200s, though it was significantly altered in the 1500s. Originally a royal hunting lodge, it was gifted to the Stuarts and later used by the Hamiltons and Campbells. Its L-shaped design was practical, defensive and residential. The tower house saw use during several power struggles, including the Jacobite risings. In the 1600s it was seized by Cromwell's forces and later became a base for customs officers cracking down on island smuggling. The castle was abandoned in the 1700s, but its location remains unbeatable. You can still walk right up to the edge and see how its builders used the land and water as natural defences. Quiet now, it once stood as a lookout, a refuge, and a political tool in controlling the Firth of Clyde. Four, Culzean Castle. Perched dramatically on cliffs above the sea, Culzean Castle is one of Scotland's most iconic stately homes. What you see today was largely shaped in the late 1700s by architect Robert Adam, who transformed an older fortified house into a grand, romantic mansion for the Kennedy family. Unlike many castles on this list, Culzean was never about pure defence. It was designed to showcase wealth and taste with sweeping staircases, ornamental ceilings and panoramic views. Yet it still has a central tower from its earlier days, and hidden below are gun loops and thick walls, a nod to its medieval past. In the 20th century, the castle was gifted to the National Trust for Scotland. During World War II, part of it was offered to General Eisenhower as a thank you for American support. Today it draws visitors from around the world, not just for its architecture, but for the way it blends history, landscape and design into a single, unforgettable setting. Third, Rothesay Castle. Right in the centre of the Isle of Bute's main town, Rothesay Castle is instantly unusual. Its circular curtain wall, rare in Scotland, surrounds a central keep and traces its origins back to the early 1200s. Originally built by the Stuart family, it was one of their earliest power bases, well before they ascended to the Scottish throne. This castle saw real conflict. In 1230, Norse forces from Norway laid siege, breaching the walls with axes. The scars of that battle led to reinforcements, thicker walls and stronger towers. Over the next 2 centuries, Rothesay became a favourite residence of Scottish kings, especially those looking to project authority in the Western Isles. By the 1600s, its importance faded. It was already in decline when it suffered damage during Cromwell's campaigns. Restoration work began in the 1800s, and today the walls still rise, enclosing a grassy courtyard and hints of what once stood proud. Walk through Rothesay and the castle feels ever present, part of daily life. It's not just a ruin, it's a core part of the island's identity, with nearly 800 years of history built into its stone. Second, Dunskey Castle. Dunskey Castle clings to a cliff edge just south of Portpatrick on the Galloway coast. Its position is striking, exposed to the sea on 3 sides, with sheer drops that made attack nearly impossible from that direction. The stone ruins you see now date mostly from the 1500s, but an earlier structure likely existed on the site as early as the 12th century. It was held by the Adair family, a local power with ties to Ireland and the Scottish crown. The castle's design was part tower house, part fortified residence. While relatively small, it was highly defensible, with gun loops, thick walls and tight passageways. Dunskey wasn't just a private home, it had a role in monitoring movement along the coast and controlling trade. But by the 1700s, the family had moved inland and the structure was left to the wind and salt. Today, it's an open shell, roofless, weathered, but still fierce in its position. The views from the cliff are some of the best anywhere in Scotland, and the castle's isolation only adds to its appeal. It feels untouched, raw, and completely rooted in the land. First, Stirling Castle. If one castle defines Scottish history, it's Stirling. Perched on a volcanic outcrop, it dominates the landscape for miles, overlooking the River Forth and guarding the gateway between highlands and lowlands. Its origins stretch back to at least the 1100s, but what you see today is mostly from the 1400s and 1500s, built during the reigns of James IV and James V. This was a royal palace, military stronghold and symbol of power all in one. Mary Queen of Scots was crowned here as a baby in 1543. The Great Hall and Royal Palace were designed to rival any in Europe, with elaborate carvings, colour and symbolism meant to reinforce the divine right of the Scottish monarchy. Stirling also played a role in battles. Nearby fields saw Wallace and Bruce fight for independence. Later it was fortified against English invasion and remained a key garrison for centuries. Unlike many castles, Stirling was never fully abandoned. It evolved, used by armies, restored by historians, and today visited by hundreds of thousands. Its size, its history, and its place in Scotland's national story make it a fitting number one. That's 10 castles. Some are just shells, others nearly intact. Each one tells a different story, shaped by the land and the people around it. This isn't a definitive list, it's just what I've discovered so far. There are plenty more still to come, and I'm only just getting started. If you're enjoying this journey, there's more on the channel, and if there's a castle you think I should visit next, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.